Today, we are going to learn how to make a high budget film with zero budget. So let's get into it.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are broadcasting live from Oakwood University. We are tuned in for the blackout game, for the game y'all been waiting for. Biggest game of the year.
This was a commercial that I made a couple years back when I was director of athletic services in college, and we wanted to create a commercial for our blackout game, which essentially is the last game of the season. So we wanted to make the promo really come alive and really just look very professional. Unfortunately, we had zero budget. We wanted some tube lights, we couldn't get it. We wanted another key light so that we can light up our space, we couldn't get it. And the funny thing was, when we first started shooting this, my friend at the time, he was like, oh, I don't think this is gonna come out the way we want. It's too dark. Our cameras are not that high quality. I'm like, let me work. I was like, let me work, bro, let me work. And it came out great. We had to use what we had already, which was a camera, which was my A6300, which you can probably get for about $500 now, my Sigma 18-35, and one light, which is this light right here. Unfortunately, somebody did break it, so it doesn't work anymore, so it's just on the shelf now. But essentially, you can get one of these 120 watt lights for fairly cheap nowadays. But let's go into actually the planning. So this is Milanote. This is what I use to storyboard and create all of my stuff for my talent as well as for directors alike to see. So as you can see, we have our establishing shots that you need when you're first about to shoot. It's great to set the setting of where the talent actually is. So we had the scene start off in the gym, all the lights were off, and unfortunately, we couldn't get the gym during the daytime. And that's another thing you need to learn, that a lot of stuff are not going to go as planned, and you have to learn how to make things happen with nothing. The cuts of everyone dribbling up the court, similar to the NBA 2K12 intro, if you know, you know. As you can see here, the gear that we were originally going to use was the 120D Mark II. We had two of them, but unfortunately I only got to use mine. We didn't use gimbals. We went handheld to actually give it that more action-packed way. A key to creating action shots, whether that's commercials or movies or promos or anything, when it mainly comes to action, it's great to use handheld because it actually puts the audience into the atmosphere that you're going for. If you wanted to go for a gimbal shot, it would give a more calm, more organized feel, but I wanted it to feel a little bit chaotic and for it to build up. The haze actually does create an atmospheric look, but unfortunately, we couldn't find somebody to turn off the fire alarms inside because the smoke would have let it off, fire department would have came, everybody would have been out, so we couldn't do that. So now we're going to get into the shots and how we actually got them. Now the key to lighting spaces is generally to start off in total darkness and then either motivate your light or create artificial light. The goal with this was mainly artificial. I really wanted now when it came to lighting this, I really wanted to do it in the daytime or like towards sunset, but unfortunately I couldn't have the gym. So for our first opening shot, we had my 120D Mark II off to the side here at about 75%, and we basically just had it blasting from this side. Unfortunately, we only had one light, so we had to make do with what we had, and we had all of our talent across coming up to this line right here. It was also set to 5500 Kelvin, because it is a daylight light, so it stays at 5500. Now if we scroll down, you can see they come up to the line, and now you can see to where the light is actually shining on them, shining on the jerseys. This is what I wanted. I wanted them to come out of the dark into the light. Keep in mind, it's the blackout game, so essentially that's why it's black. Then with our shots of the uniform, I had my person bring the light up closer to blare on his face, so you can see that over here is the shadow side and over here is the lighter side. Now to add more depth to what you are actually shooting, it's great to shoot towards the shadow side, or to actually just create some sort of contrast between the player or the talent and the light. This actually gives it that more contrasty look that some movies have. We then did the same thing for her as well. We had our light blaring off to the side of her, creating that separation, as well as him and her. And simply because we only had one light, we just kept walking with the light. So the light was always off to the side. Now for our actual action shots, as I stated before, we made it handheld. And also you can see in the back right here, we have the boards as ambient lighting. Now I used it as ambient lighting so that it would separate them from the background, and I had the 120D Mark II again blaring off to the side. So the thing with this now, it was going to become hard to actually continuously have a light source blaring on them as well as when they're moving, because again, we only had one light. So simply all I did was have a person off to the side following her with the light. Yes, literally just following her with the light. And essentially that's all we did for these couple of shots. The key also, I like to say, is to have some form of ambient light in the back so that your subject can be separated, because really without the ambient lighting, her sleeve right here would have blended more into the background, and I didn't want that. I wanted to have some form of separation. As you can see, the same with this shot right here as well. We had the person running with the light. We had the scoreboard right here with the lights on it, and we just kept running with the light essentially. Here we did the same thing. We had the light blaring off to the side. And then for this shot, we basically did the same thing to where the player was coming out of the dark into the light, as you can see here. And all this was I was standing right in front of him with the light blaring, but I had a light grid attached. That's my version of a light grid. Usually you have a soft box, and to create that soft light onto your subject, typical, usually this big octagon thing that you put on front of your light. But you can also control the light from spilling out with a light grid. So right now, if I show you, I'm using a light grid right here, which controls the light directly onto my face so that it prevents the spilling outwards. So if I obviously was to remove it now, you can see that this is with the light grid on and this is with the light grid off. So as you can see, it's spilling, it's less diffuse, and it's just spilling off into the background. So that's essentially what I use so that the light would focus in on the player. So let's just put that back on, and now you can see our light is controlled once again. So essentially that's basically how we got him running into the light. And this shot now, this was just basically having the light off to the side, blaring at this crowd here. Nothing really too crazy. Then we overlaid the thing on top here with her throwing the ball. Then we have this shot right here, which essentially it was the same light coming in and with a grid on, so that you can see it's more focused, more controlled. If I would have taken off the grid, you probably see more of the background, but I didn't want any of that inside. So, and then I'm off to the side right here, as you can see. Then for my favorite shot, which is the money shot, as you can see, this is what the light grid is doing. It's creating a pathway down here to where the light is only coming in front. And that's essentially what I needed. Again, we have the ambient light here to help. And then we had my light off to the front with the 100% intensity and my light grid, which essentially just added more control onto the subject. And that's literally how we did it. That's basically literally all the breakdown that you need. Now, when it came to the edit, it was pretty simple. It was just a lot of layering sound effects, really, a couple zoom transitions. You can learn more how to create certain effects in this video that I have here. And as well as when it came to sound design really elevates your film. So if you want to know how to actually transform videos with sound effects, I actually do have another video. For instance, when I started it, I had a hit. I had stuff of the crowd from one of the games saying, "Let's go Oakwood." But literally when it came to actually creating the audio, literally all I did was map out every single basketball bounce, every single catch, every single step, every single squeak of the shoe. That's essentially how I did it. I literally mapped out everything. Little things do elevate your sound design. Like for instance, when it came to the men generally had bigger hands, so I would add a more punchy bass effect, versus when the girls would catch the ball, I would have a little bit of a higher pitch because they have smaller hands. Little things make these films great. But I just wanted to let you guys know you don't need the latest and greatest technology to create something great. So really all in your kit that you need to start off is a good camera, a powerful light, and a good lens. Pretty much all you need. And I would argue that the lens is a little better than the camera. Now, when people say gear doesn't matter, gear matters in certain situations, but it does not matter for making things that are presentable. For instance, looking back now, I probably wouldn't say, oh my gosh, this was my best work. At the time, it was my best work. And if I could redo it, I would redo it in a different way. But this just goes to show you that you don't need the greatest gear ever. There's multiple things you're not gonna have access to. I really wanted a fogger. I really wanted a second light. I really wanted light tubes. But in filmmaking, you're just gonna have to use what you have to use. But I just really want to show you guys that you don't need the latest and greatest gear. Sometimes you can get by with a couple budget options, whether it's just you, your camera, and your light. But happy 2025. Thank you guys for showing so much love to the channel. And let me know what you think. I'm out.